So this is Shanna, and Shanna Robert is here today as a legal nurse consultant to give us a little bit of advice about getting started. Why don't you start by just telling us a little bit about how you got started? And if any of you guys have any questions for Shanna, because it's just such a small little group tonight, I think it's a lot better to just have a conversation with her. I'm just going to have her start by telling us a little bit about her journey and how did you become a legal nurse consultant and what brought you to where you are today?
All right. So my journey began way back before I was even a nurse, and I was in registration in the emergency room. And one of the patients that I was registering saw my nursing book sitting on the desk. And she said, "What are you doing here? Like, why are you working here? Why aren't you working in the back in the emergency room?" And I said, "I have to get through school first. So I'm just like baby stepping my way up." So once she knew that, she said, "You need to look at legal nurse consulting. Like, that's where it's at. That's fantastic." So that was probably 3 years before I even finished nursing school. And it just always played in the back of my mind. So I did my clinical and ICU and ER right out of school. And then this friend of a friend just said, "Hey, we're working on the hernia mesh docket and it's huge. Do you want some part-time work?" And I said, "Absolutely, let's give it a shot." So I went in with no training, really no idea what I was doing at all. And it blindsided me a bit. But also at that time, I was pretty fresh out of school, so hadn't had time to have a career. I didn't have the $10,000 that a lot of people required, or even the $2,000 to take some of these classes that were offered online. And I just thought, hey, I'll wing it. So did all my training for free. And then in about 3 months after I started, I was training other nurses. So
Wow, good for you.
yeah.
Wow. So
So
it sounds like you have a history of just not letting what people would normally consider to be barriers or normally consider
right.
to be reasons why they can't. I haven't been a nurse very long. Like you hadn't even been a nurse at all before you started considering this career, which I think is
Right.
fascinating because I think it's something that just doesn't even occur to a lot of nurses. It's just never even ever in their whole career crosses their mind. And I think much less nurse practitioners. And as the group you have here tonight is nurse practitioners. And I have this theory that why it is that nurse practitioners are not really in this field as much as they don't have the representation in legal nurse consulting as much as they would, like statistically. And I wonder about your take on that. I wonder if it has something to do with just the fact that we don't necessarily think outside the box the way sometimes RNs do. Even as a nursing student, you were trying to think, okay, what career path can I take? But as a nurse practitioner, it's, oh, I've already picked a career path. It's a nurse practitioner.
Yeah.
And see ourselves as being able to get outside of that box. Sometimes we think, oh, this is it. This is the pinnacle of my career. I've reached it. This is it. And so we don't look around like RNs do. What are your thoughts on that? And maybe if you've ever had any thoughts on that, I don't know.
Well, I think it depends very much on which avenue of legal nurse consulting you want to get into. Nurse practitioners, even RNs, are looking for something that's paying more or at least comparable to where they're at. So if you go into a mass tort setting where LPNs are very comfortable reviewing in that setting, that may not be something that's the best fit for a nurse practitioner. And I also feel like the skill set is higher on the personal injury and medical malpractice side too. But I'm a very big believer in create your own opportunities. You have to create your own opportunities. So when I tell people to start this, if nurse practitioners are thinking about getting into legal nurse consulting, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I have never reviewed a personal injury case," for instance. I tell everybody, who do you know that was in a car accident? Were you yourself in a car accident? Did somebody have a slip and fall? Get those records. Now, of course, you want to be modest about it and make sure that it's okay with them, but get those records and review them so you create your own writing sample. And then once you have that, you can take that to your law firms. I think that it's there, but you just have to be open to all possibilities that it's coming to, and know, do you want to do mass tort, or do you want to use the critical thinking that you've developed along the way? If it was my personal opinion, and I'm not planning on going to nurse practitioner school, but for you guys, your skill set just amazes me. And it's so much even beyond what an RN can do. I would strongly try to get into a medical malpractice firm where I'm still using my skills and still using my thinking. And not to say I wouldn't do personal injury or mass tort, but I think that would be better suited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I never even really considered the fact that medical malpractice seems to align better with a nurse practitioner. That's an interesting insight, because that's actually what my company is going to be focused on, is medical malpractice. So that's good to hear.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so we're looking,
That's
you know,
great.
we're always going to be looking for contractors for our company to help us with those medical malpractice cases. But what do you focus on mostly personally?
So right now is personal injury. That's the majority of my cases. And I do not I can work up the chronologies and I can make the detailed chronologies, but my job is more focused on the medical management and getting the clients through care as they're still in the treating phase. And then I do any research for cases that are going to litigation. So I have two parts here. But I've always worked for large firms, and large firms have this huge trend now of bringing in LPNs or people just basic medical field to do their chronologies and set them up because they're cheaper, and then have the RN come in, look at it, solidify the information, pull it together as a critical thinking note. And then of course, if anything else is needed on the back end, that's where the higher degrees are going to come in.
Okay, so right now, because you're with large firms, they have like this efficiency of making sure everybody's using their degree and knowledge to the highest level, and making sure that people aren't doing work that is something that someone that has less education or costs less to the firm can
Right.
do. That makes sense.
Right.
Okay. And so I haven't heard too much about, I'm just curious, this doesn't have a whole lot to do with the NPs, but I haven't heard too much about LPNs in legal nurse consulting. What is your thought about that?
So there is a lot of controversy around that. And even on my Facebook group, you will see that. And I throw up posts every once in a while. LPNs can do this job. And people are like, oh, no, they can't. Yes, they can. I promise you that they can. So the first time that I saw LPNs come in was on the mass tort side of things. And these firms were looking to cut costs, of course, because it's volume and it's very quick in mass tort. I call it the ER of legal nurse consulting.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then our firm decided to outsource to Nicaragua. So I thought, why are we paying, like going across international borders to pay somebody what we can have nurses do here as LPNs? So they actually trialed it, and it was a firm in Houston that I was working for, and pulled in LPNs, let them do basic reviews, let them do basic chronologies, and then just set up this hierarchy to go to the RNs if it was a case.
So the LPNs extract the information, and then the RNs really analyze what's been extracted. Yeah, that makes sense. A team approach. I like it.
And it also gives you two sets of eyes on every case then when you're doing that. So it catches a lot of errors. It works for the benefits. And in that firm, our NPs would come in and do the expert witness, or if we needed further treatment or had a disease process we weren't sure about, or how was it all related, they were really more consultants for the RNs than they were consultants as pulling out chronologies.
So consultants to the consultants.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's a really interesting system. It sounds like they got really efficient with that in the bigger firms. I had never heard that yet.
Yeah.
So what do you think is the biggest mistake that legal nurse consultants make starting out? And I'm going to start with that question. And then everybody else, if you want to think about a question that you might want to ask Shanna tonight, this is a really great opportunity to talk to somebody who's already doing this. So if you think of a question, pipe in after this, but I want to hear what your take is on what's the biggest mistake starting out.
Okay. Starting out, generally, I feel people don't understand how hard it is to really work from home, to have that work-life balance. It is so easy to say, I'm going to review a case and throw in a load of laundry. I'm going to start a case. I'm going to go start dinner real quick. And when you're getting paid case by case and you're clocking your minutes on that, an hour of housework is an hour that you're not getting paid. The other thing is, if you don't have a space to work, first of all, I say never work from your couch, because if you work from your couch, you turn in couch work and that looks like crap. So let's never do that, and always get dressed. But if you don't have a space that you can close it down, shut yourself away from it, you will burn yourself out really fast. And that is not a good place to be.
So how did you resolve that starting out with the not so much the space, you have to get a space, but how did you resolve the juggling?
Yeah. So the very first thing I did, it was so hard at first, and I screwed up a lot. I will tell you that right out the gate. I worked a lot of weekends trying to get my hours in, trying to make it work. And I thought, I can't do this anymore. So I set a schedule just like a regular work day. And I would get up, get dressed, go uptown, grab a coffee from my coffee shop, and then drive back to my house and go to work. And then at the end of the day, I would go outside for at least 15 minutes. And that was the end of my day. Take a walk, play in the garden, whatever. But it separated it in my mind.
Right. It was a psychological message to yourself. My day is starting, my day is ending. I love that. That's really good advice. And then the getting dressed thing too. It's so easy to just hang out in your pajamas. Like I just curled my hair just for this because I'm going to be on camera. But I'm like, I work from home, so I just don't curl my hair. And maybe I should start doing that. It might actually make me more productive.
I was so excited for today because I'm like, yes, I can wear regular clothes. But it makes such, like, when I come up at 7 in the morning and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so hard to be like, get out of the pajamas, but do it. Definitely do it.
Regular wake up time routine. Such good advice. And actually not really what I expected as an answer from that. Like it just wouldn't have occurred to me that a lot of people say things about like marketing themselves in ways that aren't effective or doing the work in a way that's not effective. But you said, get yourself up and get yourself working and get yourself a routine. And I think that was really good advice. Any questions that anybody thought of for Shanna? In addition to what we've already been asking, because I've got more, but I just want to make sure that this is more inclusive of everybody's questions. We've got Ellen, Andrea, Rachel. Hello, everybody. Lisa, Pam, pipe in if you have questions. I know you came because you had a specific burning question. I'm curious to know. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Hi, it's Rachel Huff. I'm interested in this. So do we have to be certified before we?
You do not. And I do not have a certification. My education is MBA, and I did that first before even nursing school. And then I went and got my ADN, and then I got my certificate or my ADN. And then I became a legal nurse. I do not have any certification. I do not plan to get any certification.
I didn't know that you had an MBA. That's really interesting. So how do you feel like that has played into your ability to get up and running? And I know that you don't obviously need an MBA to do this work either, just to make that really clear, but that must be something that's helped you here and there. Like, how is that?
It has. So it's helped and it's hindered because on one hand, I have the business background. My husband and I run our own boat repair shop. We're at the Lake of the Ozarks. So I've helped him. He put me through nursing school. But at the same time, it really hindered me because so many of the programs that were out there were let us help you build your business. Let us help you do this. And I didn't need any of that. So I didn't want to pay for any of that because I'm like, I know how to do the business. I need somebody to show me how to convert to different areas of legal nursing. And that's why we created the Legal Nurse Network, was to help people in this position.
And I thought that was really interesting, kind of unique thing about your program, because it just depends what someone needs and what they're missing in their own. What are your individual gaps as a student in coming into legal nurse consulting? Do you feel like clinically you need a little more help? Do you feel like you just have no clue where to start with the legal aspect of things? Or do you feel like you wouldn't know the first thing about starting a business or marketing a business? And so what's different about yours is that you put the emphasis on the actual nursing and legal part, which means that your program's probably not as, I'm trying to think of the right word, probably not as time consuming, maybe. Is it faster to get through?
It is. It's very fast. So our program is all based on case reviews. That's what we want you to get out of this, is case review and another type of case review. Like, it really blows you up, but you come out with so many good product samples that you can say, here's a basic chronology, here's litigation chronology, here's RN research, here's what my demand might look like. And even though as legal nurse consultants, we typically don't send out demands, if our writing is developed and good enough, the attorneys just copy and paste it right on their demand letters. And that's where you want to live, if you're in the personal injury world, of course. So for mass tort, it's more, there are several different dockets that we will do different case reviews on, but it's training your brain to think through each different docket and how do I shift to the next one? What do I need to know to shift to the next one? So it's very much a mindset thing.
Understanding the process
Yes.
of analyzing, systematically analyzing different types of cases and not approaching them the
Absolutely.
same way because they're different. So explain just, and I don't know, I've been in the world long enough to not remember whether I even knew what mass tort meant. And I haven't been in this world forever, by the way, you guys. I just really quickly introduce myself. I'm Elisa Collins. I'm the admin in the group of the NP. I don't even remember what I named it. A lot of key buzzwords, but NP Legal Mastermind Networking Group. It's this buzzword after buzzword, right? For search purposes. And so I'm the admin in that group. And my whole purpose in that group is to provide everyone there just resources and options to get started and to take action and get out there. And so I'm bringing in people like Shanna and others on a regular basis to just talk to you guys about your different options so that you can have an unbiased kind of buffet table, so to speak, like and also to provide a platform for these RNs who have really amazing programs, but they can't get in front of nurse practitioners as easily. And because this is a field where registered nurse practitioners are underrepresented, I believe, statistically compared to the head-to-head numbers of RNs to NPs. And so I just wanted to get nurse practitioners more representation in legal nurse consulting. And I thought one way to do it is to help the RNs who know what they're doing and give them a platform and give them some accolades from a nurse practitioner to say, hey, this person knows what they're talking about. There's nothing wrong with reaching and asking for help from someone who is an RN because she does know a lot about legal nurse consulting, and that's something we don't know about. That's why we're here. So anyway, I think, and it brings up the topic of the concept of the word expert, which is relevant because I know so many people get so overwhelmed by the word expert, or they feel like, oh no, I'm not an expert. Like I can't. And by the way, I don't want to take up too much of your content time, but these are things that are like so new to people here because nobody here has done legal nurse consulting really. And one of the things that I had to get over in my own head was this idea about the word expert. So can you speak to that a little bit? Even though we're not necessarily talking about expert witnessing here, we're talking about behind the scenes, but just talk a little bit about the word expert. What's your take on that?
So the word expert, and I will be honest, I've never done, in the specific sense, I have never done expert witness, and I never plan to do expert witness. Definitely not my cup of tea.
Not your thing.
But
what would you say to someone who you think is totally qualified to be an expert, but they don't feel that they are qualified? What's your paradigm on that?
I think you probably don't realize your worth. Because whether or not you call yourself an expert, when you get in front of an attorney and you can decipher a medical record, you become an expert in their mind. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to go to trial, obviously there is a lot more that goes into that I won't even speak to because I don't know about it. But you serve as the ex for your attorneys. And you are the expert for your attorneys. So bolster your confidence a little bit and go in. I know what I'm talking about. I always tell my people who start in the class, like, I'm not going to teach you a ton of legal stuff in the class. We will go through the basics of how a case works. We will go through what they are requiring from us, but they hire us for the medical. Mm-hmm. That's what they need.
And that I think is the team approach, the whole idea that everybody's doing what they're good at. So, and that comes back to that point too. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just a matter of, you need to realize that, and being an expert doesn't mean being the best in the world at something. It means being the best person in the room.
Yes.
at that thing. So right now, Shanna, you're the expert here on legal
Oh,
nurse
no.
consulting. Yes. See, no, but you have to own that because you are the person in this room, this Zoom room, that has the most experience with legal nurse consulting. Now, if Shanna were not in the room, suddenly I would be the expert in the room. And I only have a year and a half myself. So that doesn't mean that I am the expert and I know more that I'm an expert in the world on legal nurse consulting. It's just that compared to what? So if you are an expert compared to an attorney on congestive heart failure, then you're the expert. And it's just a word that is used in court to describe someone who is not a fact witness. So a fact witness is someone who actually saw the events unfold and can speak to the events, and then an expert witness as opposed to a fact witness. So it's just a word to distinguish them, but we get so caught up in, wait, I'm not an expert. I can't label myself as expert. I'm not the best in the world. Even though I did sleep medicine, I'm not the expert sleep medicine person or whatever. You can say, but you are in this room, right? You are the person in this room that has the most experience and the most knowledge about that. And so if we were to put a label on you to distinguish you from a fact witness, it would be expert witness. So that was a huge paradigm shift for me. So I hope that's helpful. So as a legal nurse consultant behind the scenes, are we considered expert witnesses then, or experts, or how, I mean, what's the terminology there?
So I've never heard anybody refer to us as expert, but I will tell you, in the larger firms that I've had experience with, it is a very high regard just that we hold the nurse title. Mm-hmm. And it's even more, this is our LPN, let's get our RN involved, let's get our NP involved. So there comes a lot of weight with this being a nurse in the attorney field. The other thing I want to caution you on is, if you're out there searching for jobs, to go back to what we were talking about with the expert, don't discount the medical paralegal or nurse paralegal position. It is the same position as a legal nurse consultant. So just another tip for you as you are searching. Some people say, oh, I'm not a paralegal. I don't have the paralegal certificate. I can't do this. In the larger firms, they are synonymous.
And you don't need to have paralegal training. They'll train you on the legal parts. Okay,
they will train you. Yeah, because they're very specific to what they want us to do for the legal parts. Most of it surrounding ordering records or making sure, doing our initial record review, is it even a good case or not, like a merit review when it first comes in to determine if we're going to stay.
What can you say about like the difference between being hired as an employee in a firm and being hired and being a contractor? What are your thoughts on those options?
So pros and cons to both. I've actually done contracting, subcontracting, and work in-house. It really depends on what you need at that point in your life. And what I mean by that is, there's of course pros to all of them. A contractor, I did make more money when I was doing that. I had to go out and find my own cases. So there was this constant struggle to make sure I had work and my subs had work, and on down the line. When I subcontracted, it took out a little bit of that marketing there. So it gave me more time to actually review. And even though I was making just a little bit less than I did as contracted, I had more disposable income. But for my personal family, I have 3 children and a husband, and we needed the insurance and we needed the benefits. Mm-hmm. Now I have retirement. I don't worry about my own paperwork. Everything just comes. I have an S Corp set up for my business that all of the training runs through. So I do have a little bit of that, and my instructors who teach, I have to pay them, but it allows me to focus more on the work and less on the business. And I'm on set hours now.
Yeah, so well, that's cool that you can be an employee and own a business, the training business on the side. Tell us a little bit more about your training business and some of the differences. We talked a little bit about one of the difference being that you don't focus as much on the business side. If someone feels ready to approach that, then they just need a little bit more of the training side. Does that come with advantages of being more affordable and things like that?
Yes. So we have set it up that it is completely online, but you are paired with an instructor who works one-on-one with you. And it is very much The first 2 weeks of it are designed to be like, here's the presentation. Okay, this is the basic legal terminology that we're going to use in the class, or these are the basic reports that we're going to do. But as we start developing, and before we get to these case reviews, you develop your own templates. Because if I teach everybody how to make the same exact template, where's your competitive edge there? It doesn't give you a step up. So we try to hone in on, okay, think about how this would look, but it's your business. How do you want it to look? And then as you do your case reviews, then we grade you, for lack of better terminology, based on the templates that you have provided to us.
Provide feedback.
Yes. And we have also developed it because I think legal nurses never are prepared for when they're so busy, they need help. And then they think, oh, I'll just grab this nurse and bring them in and they can sub under me. Some nurses are not cut out for this. So we also create your training as you are creating your own templates. So the template part is the part that everybody hates the most because I'm so picky on it. And I'm like, tell me this, but it is so specific down to what font are you using? What size font are you using? Is there a space? Is there a period? Is there a comma there? How, what is acceptable abbreviations? But at that time you have a family emergency or you can't do a review and you don't want to lose your contract, you can give it to another nurse and they can follow right along with you. So that's one of the biggest differences, is that we focus so much on that and doing individual attention. It is one of the least expensive programs out there. And it was designed that way because when we were all shifting around and trying to find jobs, when our company outsourced, nobody could do it. And nobody could fit our needs. We just couldn't afford it. So the biggest thing was, how do I get this information to nurses, still be a little bit lucrative to us that we can offer it, but we're not looking to make billions of dollars. We want to help. This is our way of giving back.
Yeah. So I thought that was really interesting. I think one of the hardest parts about subcontracting is just trusting that person, their work product, because it's got your name on it. In a sense, that's going to be something you can stand behind and trusting that. And what you're saying is that you actually help people who want to be able to contract out to people, subcontract. See, it's tricky with the language of subcontract and contract.
Yes.
They want to be able to subcontract out to other people, being a contractor, but they also, so they have to design their own to have that competitive edge. And then you want to help them to, on a small scale, teach just enough people to help them in their little business.
Right.
Not necessarily that they go out and start a course or something, but that they're able to stand behind whatever work product someone that they train comes on and does.
Yeah. I had an instance in the first job where I worked where actually we had a death in the family and there was a rush case, of course, that came in that same night. And that was the hardest case I have ever reviewed in my life because my mind wasn't there. And what a wake up call to say, oh my gosh, I need a backup and I need a backup for my backup. Like, I just couldn't do it, but I had to because I didn't want to lose the contract. If I didn't get that case done, I knew it was all over. So that's when that whole idea developed of, let's create our training as you create your business. And it just flows seamlessly. Everybody complains about it because they're like, you are so picky. And I am picky, but it's for a reason, because it's going to help you in the future. And that's what our end goal is to make you successful.
That's a really great idea, because it helps not only if you want to just do your own business, if you want to just be your own entity, but if you want to expand, it gives you the tools to do that. That's really cool.
Absolutely.
So do you have anything that you want to share with everybody before? I wanted to make sure that we kept to like about 45 minutes. And so we have a few more minutes if people have questions. And then I would love to have you share a little more details about your program and how people can get started. And then I have a couple of links that I'll drop in the chat box, and you'll also get them by email as well, that Shanna has provided for you all that have come to this course or to this class, so that you can get started with her if you want to learn more about her program. That you have a couple of free things to get started, don't you? Or What do you have available?
I do. So we are relatively new as well. So our personal injury class is up, our personal injury, the fundamentals and the mini course is up. We have an introduction course, which will just be going over tips and tricks for success. And we have major mistakes that LNC makes. What's the difference between the three different firms, mass tort, personal injury, med mal? But we are rolling out everything as we go. So as soon as it gets done, we roll it out. So
People would be
I
like
am-
founding with your program, like
Right.
founders.
Yes, it's very cool. So I'm a little like, I was trying so hard to get everything done, but it just didn't happen because it's so much making sure the cases are ready and making sure all the voices recorded correctly and all of that. So it will be, we'd love to have you with us. So just know there's more coming in the future.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. I'm launching my own business right now, and there's a lot that goes into it. Like and there, you have no frame of reference to figure out exactly how long something's going to take you. So you guesstimate.
Right.
And yeah, and that's why even just getting on this call tonight with you, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed out. And then I was like, I'm just going to make it happen. We're going to make it happen. So I'm so glad that we're here. But so does anybody else have any other questions for Shanna before she gives us a little more detail? What brought you? I'd be curious to know what everybody's specialties are. Can everybody like pop on and just tell me what your specialties are? And that way I can make a note, and because I subcontract too. I'd love to touch base with people. I'm just going to call you all out. And if you can't answer, that's fine. Just stay off. But Pam, you want to start us out?
So it's Pam. I've had 40 years of medical experience. I was a CNA, then an LPN, then an associate degree nurse, and then bachelor's, and then an NP. Pretty much practice in every role. I've done case management, home care for cardiac patients, and let's see, about 8 years of med surg in a large hospital where I work now as a consultant for palliative care. But before that, I worked for about 6 years in the emergency, very busy, one of the busiest emergency rooms in the country in emergency observation role.
Cool. Yeah. And if anybody is unable to get off the microphone and tell us what's up, or if they'd rather not, and they wanted to just chat in, because it is recorded, by the way, then you can just chat in and tell us what your experience is if you want. I'd love to get to know everybody in the group anyway, and or you can tell us why you're here. I know Pam, I've seen you in a couple of these calls. You must be like, really, I am so ready to try this thing out. So I'd be curious to know if people want to share what brought them to legal nurse consulting. Pam, if you want to pop back in, you can on that, just like what's making you so curious. And
Sure. So I took a course actually years ago, and oh shoot, I can't remember the lady's name, but it was a course.
Years ago, it's probably Vicky or Veronica.
Yes, Vicky. Yes, yes. And I bought the textbook, and then it just, I don't know, it wasn't the right timing, but it's always been an interest. I said I should have gone to law school. And so it's always been an interest. And recently I've been in the dregs of COVID with my consulting, because we see a lot of patients that are end of life and on the vent or ECMO from COVID. And I'm really getting burnt. I have 31 years in my institution, and I can't retire until I'm 62 because I started so early. They go by age. And so I don't know. I love what I do, but I am getting burnt.
How many of you, not everybody's on camera, but of the people that are on camera, for how many of you guys is burnout playing a role? Like, just, I'm ready to shift some hours.
Right.
Yeah. Or how about COVID? Like, how many has COVID increased your burnout? Do you think? Anybody who wants to hop in next and tell us what it's all, Sarah, and I'm not sure how to pronounce your name.
Actually, that's my husband.
I was going to say, I'm not
yes,
going to pronounce that right.
yes,
And
yes. My name is Alessia.
But since we've got you off for a second, then we'll go with Sarah. But tell us what your experience is. Oh, go ahead, Sarah. We'll go ahead with Sarah. Tell us, Sarah, what your experience is, and then what you're really quickly why you're looking at legal nurse consulting.
My experience has been about 20 years. I've worked cardiac nursing, I helped start a progressive care unit. I worked medical ICU in a level 1 trauma center. And then I, as a nurse practitioner, work cardiology and urgent care. I'm really interested in getting started. In full disclosure, I've been on both sides of the fence, and I've been a patient as much as I've been a practitioner and a provider. And
Is
I,
that what you mean when you say both sides of the fence, patient and provider, or you mean both sides of the legal fence?
both sides of, actually both. You can take it
All the
both
above.
directions. All of the above. I've seen what can happen. I see what goes under the rug. I've also been, unfortunately, on the bad end of it as a patient as well. So it makes me want to get in there. I've always been one to dissect things from the beginning. Sorry about my 4-legged child making noise because I'm speaking. So I'm frustrated with the system. I hate how it works. I want to make it better. If I can help identify where there's problems, so maybe somebody can improve on their practice, then I'm doing the right thing. I feel like with all of our restrictions, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and our lack of reimbursement as providers, I'm running into a wall, and you almost consider going back to nursing, because where am I going as an NP, especially where I live in upstate New York? I'm between a rock and a hard place. The RNs are making more than us right now.
And your liability is so much higher. Yeah. I hear
It's
you.
horrible. So if I can at least help make some part of the system better and help open eyes to what's going wrong, I feel like I'm doing the right thing, and I'm still making some positive impact. And then also with my own personal restrictions, I need to start thinking of alternative things. And my mom has always joked I should have went to law school, and I love arguing, and I pick apart my whole family's charts when they go in the hospital or they get sick, or even their notes. And my mom's, will you please just go look into that and get going on it? And here I am.
Well,
So
I'm so glad you found our group.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating to me how many people that have found our group have said that to me, that I've been thinking about this for so long.
Yeah.
That they've just been waiting for something to come up like this, and just so tailored to nurse practitioners. So that's just so exciting to have so many people say that.
The irony is, I've looked around, there is nothing like this in this area. Nothing.
Nothing like.
No, there's no nurse consultants whatsoever.
Oh, really? Wow. Yeah. So
Yeah.
the field is white.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it needs, you know what, it's an important part of a whole ecosystem. We're part of an ecosystem as legal nurse consultants that help to make medicine safe and nursing safe.
Correct.
It would be a scary world if we weren't, as providers, accountable to being negligent and having malpractice. I think Shanna wanted to pipe in there.
If I can just jump in to make you guys feel a little bit better, because you'll start to hear, as so many nurses hit this burnout and are starting to shift over to this field, they say, oh, the market is saturated. There won't be enough work. Let me explain. That's not going to happen. There are over 10 million attorneys in the United States. You need 1 to 2 to work full time. That's it. 1 to 2.
And what I read was that there's 85,000 medical malpractice cases. That's just medical malpractice. That's not tort.
Yeah.
That's not personal injury. It's not criminal cases. Like they need nurses and things on like murder cases and things, when assault cases and things like, well, personal injury would be assault, but yeah, that just the medical malpractice cases, I was reading that there's 85,000 in just the US alone. And that you have to remember that there's a legal nurse consultant, in theory, on both sides of each case, and sometimes more than one. And that's 160,000 in the United States each year. And so there's just a lot of work to be done, really. It's a good point. Who else wants to introduce themselves? I have Andrea here. She says she's got a lot going on in the background, so she can't talk, but she just wants to let us know she's an NP with ER experience, endocrinology, pulmonology, family practice, and currently in occupational health, employee health. Took a legal nurse consulting course as an RN back in 2004, didn't pursue it. And that's something I come across a lot. How about you, Shanna? Do you see that a lot? People take courses, don't ever take off with it. So what do you...
I think there's a big push, just speaking from a general business, the idea of having a business is new and it's fun and it's something like it's attainable right then. But the longer it goes and the longer it drags out, people get tired and they're like, oh, it's so much work. And I'm in this course and I've been in it for 6 months. Or I've heard from some of the other courses that they come out with all of this stuff and they're like, this is great, but what do I do now? Like, I have all this background, but what do? I still don't have a good writing sample. I still don't know what to take to attorneys. So that's where we're trying to fill the gap of, here's the little pieces that you need that you didn't get everywhere else, all bundled up for you.
Okay, cool. Anybody else want to tell us what their experiences were low on time? So if anybody's dying to let us know what their experience has been. I think you're off mute and you didn't tell me what your name was. You said that was your husband's name, but I didn't catch your name.
Alicia, my name is Alicia. I was a
Okay.
nurse. I was in nursing for 10 years, so I will be short. And I'm NP for 5 years.
Mhm.
So I mostly worked in a hospital. I recently changed to be internal medicine in a psych hospital. And legal consulting, when did I got the interest? Oh, I got the interest when the lawyer told me he's so good in reviewing it, because usually like when you're involved in the case, and I was involved in 5, when your name mentioned and you go through the whole process, and then I like this idea reviewing. So he's so good in explaining like why this and that, even though you're involved in the case, because usually people is just scared. It's no, I'm not guilty. Why they asking me? But if your name called, it doesn't mean that you're gonna go for the case. So I'm like, this idea of reviewing and giving my advice.
So being an expert instead of a fact witness.
Yeah, go in the details, reading about the case, and wait, okay, let's go back there, like drawing the picture.
Mhm.
Yeah. And you
like
said psych experience?
Internal medicine, yeah.
In a psych hospital.
In a psych hospital. Interesting fact on the personal injury side, for years and years, the anxiety, depression, PTSD that comes along with injury cases was overlooked. And there is a huge push just in the last 12 to 18 months to now make those compensable damages. So that background will be phenomenal.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. And I think what's really cool about legal nurse consulting is no matter what specialty you're in, there's a place for you, because if you have a really tight specialty and you're not really into marketing to attorneys, then you can always subcontract yourself because of your specialty. You're very appealing to nurses who are trying to find someone for their cases and they don't have that experience. So you can do it whether you're a specialist or a generalist. So it's really an awesome career option. Does anybody else have any more questions for Shanna, or Shanna, did you have something else you wanted to share about your program or how to get started? And then I was going to drop those links in the chat box. And again, I will email you, and I'll also put them in the Facebook chat that we had started. So those of you who saw that there was an automatic chat thread started for this call, I will drop those links in there as well, so you can check those out. Shanna, do you have anything you want to close with?
I just want to say thank you all for coming, and whether you choose us or not, best of luck to you. If you ever need any help, advice, anything on that end, I am always open, firm believer that we should support each other and make this a stronger benefit. If my website is legalnursenet.com, there's a coupon on there which will discount the price for you a little bit. We're also going to be doing some scholarships and stuff like that next year, just to give back and help nurses get into it. But we would definitely love to have you and tailor it to your needs. So reach out if you need anything or any advice. I'm always happy to help.
So one advantage, I think, to going with somebody who's just starting their course, I think that number one is that I'm sure you're going to be raising your prices over time. Like you are, because as soon as the demand goes up, you're going to, and I don't even know what your prices are, but I know you feel confident in saying that your prices, you basically undercut the competition because you're not out there saying, I'm going to help you with these aspects. I'm just going to help you with what you need. And if the person doesn't feel like they need help with the business side of things. So since you feel confident saying that yours are really competitively priced, are you okay with sharing those prices on the call?
Absolutely. So our mini courses that roll out, which like I said, we have personal injury out there right now, is $695. It should take you about 6 weeks to get through it. And that's if you work on it diligently every week. You can go faster or slower as you need to.
And it's you're not with a cohort. It's like each individual goes at their own pace. And so you're not like corroborating with other people or anything. Okay.
Nope. You just work one-on-one with your instructor. So that gives you the feedback you need. If right now I am the instructor, but I have a team of 5. So if we get to that point when you guys decide to come on, then we would match you with personality. And then I will always be overlooking the stuff to make sure that you're getting the feedback.
I like that you match with the personality. That's really helpful with the different learning styles and things.
So the one thing that I can definitely tell you, but let me tell you the pricing, and then I will tell you a little bit about my personality so you know how I roll on these courses. But the fundamentals of personal injury, it was set up to be an 8-week course. Everybody that has been through it is taking about 10 weeks to get through it. And the major difference is the amount of case reviews. So in the fundamental course, you're getting 2 examples of each different template that we create, and in the mini course you get 1. So it depends on how comfortable your learning style is, how much you want to have to present to attorneys. I can tell you, as you'll hear, I'm sure, from some of the girls who do mentorships, I am not the best person suited for a mentorship. I want nurses and nurse practitioners who are driven, who when they close their eyes at night, they see that this is their career path. So I'm not going to hound you. Did you get your homework in on time? I'm missing this assignment. I'm missing that assignment. But I'm also not going to fluff you either. When you come out of this, you have good, solid work in the process behind it. Yeah. So, I try to be as open and honest, as available and flexible as I can, but I definitely expect you to pull your weight too.
Yeah. And I think that's really valuable to just come out and say, this is how the program is from the very beginning. So the expectations are where they should be. Yeah. And yeah, mentorship is some people need mentorship. Other people just need to know the information and move forward. Yeah. And so you have to do some self-reflection and decide, am I the kind of person that needs mentorship? Because mentorship is valuable and mentorship is also pricey. It's also, there's a price tag to it because it does require a lot more of the individual's time and one-on-one-ness. And so we pay for, just like we pay for convenience at a grocery store, you're also, at a convenience store, like you pay higher prices for the convenience of getting something right there in the gas station. You also pay a premium on someone's individual one-on-one time. And so with Shanna, she has developed a program where people who don't feel like they need that premium can get a program that is more affordable than what you would get for all these people who tout, oh, you get all this one-on-one mentorship. If you need mentorship, look at one of those programs and invest the money in those programs, because if that's what your personality needs, then if you get the wrong program, then you'll be one of these people who says, I took a program in 2004 and never did anything with it, or 2021 and never did anything with it. And in order to avoid being that person, come to all these calls, listen to all the different options that there are, because there are different options and there's not one that's right for everybody. And that's why I feel like it's okay for me to come on these calls and say, you guys should consider Shanna, and you should also consider this person, because you all should. You should consider them all and look at how you match up with the personality of the person that we're talking to. So I hope you guys will join the other calls as well. And if you're interested in working with Shanna, then please take a look at those 3 links there. She's got some discounted pricing there and some freebies that can get you started and get your feet wet. And I'm really excited for all of you. Thank you for being self-starters enough to show up tonight. And I look forward to hearing what you guys are doing in the legal nurse consulting field, and get on Messenger with me at some point. I'd love to learn more about what you have going on. I also am going to be hiring subcontractors, and it's good for me to know what everybody's experience is. I'm going to go ahead and leave a quick thing in the comments too. If you haven't done this yet, it's nurse.nplegalconsultants.com. Now this will take you to our the page that you probably got on when you first landed in our group, and it looks familiar to you. Hang on, it's probably nurses. Sorry. Oh, I accidentally sent that as a private message. My bad. Let me try again. Nurses.nplegalconsultants.com. Now, when you click on that, it should, or if you open it, it should take you to what you recognize as the page that you landed on when you tried to get into our NP group. And it's different now. So you can read through that as the new vision of the group if you got in earlier. And then if you'll take that little quiz on there, it gathers your clinical experience and allows the system to tag you, so that if I need someone with wound care experience, or if I need someone with cardiac experience, that I can just search by that term and you'll come up. And so what's cool about that is eventually I'll be sharing that database with other people who have databases, and Shanna might already have a database of expert witnesses. I'm not sure. Do you have a database or something? Like, do you help locate witnesses?
So we don't do witnesses, but everybody that comes through our program, not only do I send you your work sample, but I keep a copy of your work sample too.
Okay.
And then we have just started marketing in the Midwest directly to attorney's office. Hey, come to us. We can reduce your turnover because we know who can do this and who can't do this, and let us
Okay,
do
cool.
your training for you.
Yeah.
So we will like market for you.
So that's cool. So one of the options that, or one of the cool things about being in our group is that not only will we eventually, I'm going to try and figure out how we can figure out how to subcontract with each other and how to locate, like people can come to me and say, hey, I'm looking for someone who has experience in wound care. And then I can say, no problem, let me grab something for you. So that's what I'm trying to build among other resources within this group. And so to be a part of that, all you need to do is just click on the optional survey, clinical experience survey, and go through all that so that the system will know what experiences you have both as an RN and an NP, so that not only myself, but others who are subcontracting will be able to locate you based off of that. So I hope that will provide you some value in addition to all the value you got from Shanna's discussion today. Thank you guys so much for coming, and have a wonderful night. And I will send those links also by Facebook Messenger and also in an email. So watch for that. And also make sure to put me on your white list for email, because you'll see these calls as they come up and other resources as they come your way, and also subcontracting opportunities. Thanks again, guys.